Good morning, everyone. My name is Lina Sepulveda, and this is the session 15 for the group A. I am going to wait for my students, and I think 5 minutes. Hello, Carlos. Good morning. Carlos, we are going to wait a little.
Good morning,
Very
teacher. How
good,
are you?
thanks. We are going to wait a little bit for the rest, okay? So just
Thank you.
5 minutes. Hello, Tito. Good morning.
Hello, teacher. Good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Okay.
So we are going to wait a little bit for Laura, and after we're going to start the lesson, okay?
Okay, teacher.
Okay, so we are going to start the lesson for today. This is the session 15, and I am going to share my screen. The topic for today is must not do versus don't have to. Okay, so must must not or mustn't versus don't have to. So be careful. There is a difference in the meaning between mustn't and don't have to. So mustn't meaning it is prohibited. It is not allowed. It is important that you do not do something. For example, you must not drink that. It is forbidden to drink that. Don't drink that. It is not allowed. You mustn't tell John. Do not tell John. You are not allowed to tell John something. So, when you are talking about must not or mustn't, it means that you are not allowed to do something or is prohibited. Okay? Versus don't have to. The meaning is different. There is no obligation. You are not required to do something, especially if you don't want to. You don't have to drink that. You don't need to drink that, but you can if you want. You don't have to tell John. You can tell John if you want to, but it is not necessary. So the meaning with mustn't and don't have to, the difference is mustn't is something that is prohibited and you cannot do that. But don't have to, it means it's not obligation if you do that. Okay? So now I have here an explanation about the topic. Models. So this is the model. Must is followed by the infinitive without to. I mustn't go or I must go. Let me check here. One is not. You have to. You don't have to go. Here, we use must and have to say that something is necessary or obligatory. Sometimes it doesn't matter which we use. Drivers and passengers have to wear seatbelts. Drivers and passengers must wear seatbelts. For question asking if something is necessary or obligatory, we normally use do I have to. The question form must I, etc. is far less common. Do you have to have an international driving license? So the difference between must and have to. There's sometimes a clear difference between must and have to. We use must to talk about an obligation that we impose on other person or on ourselves. It's our personal opinion. I must go to the opticians. Okay? In contrast, we normally use have to when the obligation comes from outside. the speaker. It's objective. It's outside the speaker's control. I have to go to the opticians at 11:30. Okay? Here we have the mustn't. We must not to tell people not to do something that something is wrong or against the law. The mustn't we usually use when something that we cannot do. For example, usually in the United States, you mustn't drive at more than 55 mph. We use don't have to say that there is no obligation to do something. It doesn't have to drive so slow. So depends what do you want to use, but the difference between mustn't and don't have to is usually mustn't is something that you cannot uh, do or you are not allowed to do. It's prohibited. And don't have to is something that you don't have to, but if you want, you can do it. Okay? So here I have another explanation, mustn't. There is a big difference between telling someone you mustn't drink alcohol and telling him you don't have to drink alcohol. The meaning must not means that the action is illegal, it's dangerous. If I overhear the first speaker, I think this is a doctor telling someone that his health will be ruined if alcohol crosses his lips. He might have a serious heart condition or be taking medication that even a drop of alcohol will impact negatively. Perhaps the speaker is a flight or driving school instructor, warning students against operating an aircraft or a car while under the influence of alcohol. The message is that the action could kill you and everyone else. At the very least, you will lose your license. So, must not. Do not have to in contracts suggest that something isn't necessary, that it's a choice. The second speaker is saying that there are many different types of beverage in the world: water, fruit juice, soda, tea, coffee. Alcohol is only one among of them. If you don't want to drink alcohol for reasons of taste, health, or religion, it isn't necessary. You can decide. So, this is the meaning of do not have to and must not. Knowing the difference between the two modals, you can see with it would be strange to say you don't have to fall asleep while you are driving. It is not just a choice. If you fall asleep, you and others might die. What you mean is you mustn't fall asleep while you are driving. Both mustn't and do not have to are modal verbs. They are followed by a verb in the simple or base form. No changes to its structure. Must not is much stronger than do not have to. Also, must not can only be used to talk about the present or the future. To express this idea in the past, I will have to use was forbidden to or wasn't allowed to. In contrast, do not have to can be used in the past. For example, when I was young, I didn't have to wear uniform to school. I could choose what I wore. Now I don't have to wear a uniform either because my job doesn't require one. Remember to change to do to do's when the subject is he, she, or it. My friend doesn't have to dress up for work. So now I have a video to explain a little bit of this mustn't or don't have to.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'll be teaching you the difference between must not and don't have to. Let's start with must not. We use must not or mustn't when we're talking about an obligation not to do something, something that is prohibited or forbidden. For example, we could say, you must not drive without a license, or you mustn't drive without a license. This is an obligation not to drive unless you have a license. So you must not drive without a license. Or another obligation, not to be late. We must not be late. Or we mustn't be late. We have an obligation not to be late. We could also say, I must not forget my lunch. Or I mustn't forget my lunch. This is a personal obligation. It's like saying, I shouldn't forget my lunch. I don't want to forget my lunch. I can't forget my lunch. I mustn't forget my lunch. There's no alternative. It's, I must not forget my lunch. In another example, we could say, we must not run inside the school, because running in the school is not allowed. You'll notice that we can't use must in the past tense, must not in the past tense. Therefore, if we want to say something about not running in the school in the past tense, we have to say something like, running was against the rules, or we couldn't run, or running was forbidden, or running was prohibited, or we weren't allowed to run. So this is how you would use it, express the same idea in the past tense. Now, mustn't and must not is not the same as doesn't have to or don't have to. It's completely different in meaning. We use don't have to or doesn't have to express something that's optional, something that we are not obliged to do. So for example, if someone says, you don't have to smile, that means that you can smile, but you don't have to. You're not obliged to smile, but you can smile if you want. Or, you don't have to wear a tie. Wearing a tie is not necessary, but you can wear a tie if you want. You don't have to wear a tie. You're welcome or allowed not to wear a tie. You don't have to wear it. If someone says, I don't have to go to school today, that means that they are not obliged to go to school. They're not prohibited from going to school. They're just not obliged to go today. You can also use don't have or doesn't have in the past tense. So you can say something like, you didn't have to buy me flowers. This means you weren't obliged to buy me flowers. It wasn't necessary for you to buy me flowers. In another example, you could say, he didn't have to cook dinner. He went to a restaurant, so he didn't need to cook dinner. He wasn't obliged to cook dinner. He didn't have a responsibility to cook dinner. He didn't have to cook dinner. I hope you've learned the difference between must not and have to, and I'd welcome any comments, suggestions, or feedback. Thanks for listening.
Okay, do you have any questions? Tito and Carlos, do you have any questions until now?
I don't.
I don't teacher.
No, teacher.
So now I have some exercise for you to practice this have to. Okay. one have to, must, or mustn't. So the first one, Carlos.
Yesterday, I had to finish my geography project.
Okay, the next one, Tito.
She will must wait in the line like everyone else.
Okay, the third, Carlos.
All employees must be on time for work.
Okay. Next one, Tito.
What is we mustn't forget to take the kitchen out of the freezer.
Which one? This one?
Mustn't.
Okay, the next one, Carlos.
If you are under 13, you had to get your parents'
Which
permission.
one?
The first. Hub.
The next one, Tito.
Your daughter made two differences. Your daughter may have to try.
This
Try.
one?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. The next one, Carlos.
Doctor get here soon.
Do you have to work next
This one?
weekend? The first. Do you have to work next weekend? Ah, the 7th. Okay.
Sorry.
Mm,
Get here soon.
the doctor. mm, the doctor must get here as soon as he can.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. The next one, Tito.
You must work next weekend.
Okay. Number 9, Carlos.
The basical is must remember to signal when they turn.
Finally, the number
Eh,
10, Tito.
Angela, you mustn't leave your clothes all over the floor like this.
This one,
Yes, teacher.
figure out. The percent. This one is have to. This one is have to. Do you have to work next weekend? Okay, we have just two wrong, but it's okay. And now I have another exercise. Choose the correct ones. Don't have to or mustn't to complete the sentences below. So the first one, Carlos.
You don't have to apologize. It isn't necessary.
Okay, the second, Tito.
You you mustn't.
Okay. The third one, Carlos.
You don't have to wear a tie. I do it because I like wearing ties.
Okay. Number four, Tito.
Mm, you mustn't smoke.
Okay. Number five, Carlos.
You mustn't be late. It's the most important meeting of the year.
Okay. Number six, Tito.
You don't have to.
Okay. Number seven, Carlos.
You mustn't.
Okay. Number eight, Tito.
You you mustn't drive.
Okay. Number nine, Carlos.
You don't have to cook.
Okay.
There's enough food.
And the last one, Tito.
You mustn't.
Okay, we have this one. You mustn't drive so fast. We have a lot of time. We just don't have to because the sentence says that you can drive fast, but it is not necessary because we have time. Okay, here we have just one mistake, but it's okay. Now, let them imagine and make some phrases using must not, don't have to, or have to. Carlos. Carlos.
The first one is the guys don't have to run quickly. It
Okay,
could dangerous.
okay, very good. Another one. Tito.
Uh, yes, teacher. Okay. Yes. Children mustn't run to the street. Or,
Yes,
or
very good. Yes, it's okay. Another one, Carlos.
You mustn't smoke here. It's
Yes,
forbidden.
yes, very good. Another one, Tito.
uh, Homero don't have to smoke here.
Yes, it's good. Yes. Carlos, another one.
She must finish her test to get a well grades.
Can you repeat it, please?
The girl must finish the test
Yes, yes, very good.
to get a well grades.
Okay. Tito, another one.
She mustn't write a book.
Can you repeat it again?
She must write a book.
Okay, very good. So this kind of exercise help us to improve this topic. Must, remember, must is something, or mustn't, like we saw before, is something that is prohibited. It's not allowed. You cannot do that, okay? But don't have to. It's not an obligation. If you want to do it, you can do it. Okay? So now I have here a small video about it, and after we are going to talk. Okay? Can you turn your microphone off, please? Okay.
Amy, hi. What are you doing here?
It's my new Saturday job. Hi, Elsie.
Really?
Yes, I want to study veterinary science at university, and my parents suggested I should get some experience of working with animals.
And do you like it?
It's my first day. Anyway, what can I do for you?
Well, I've got some money and I've decided I'd quite like a pet. Daisy and Mum like the idea, but Mum says I mustn't get a spider, a scorpion or a snake.
That's understandable.
Let's see the dogs. Oh yeah, look at these, mate. Puppies. What's that white one?
That's a Dalmatian.
But they've got black spots, haven't they?
Not when they're puppies, no. You have to wait until they're bigger. Then the spots appear.
Ah, I never knew that. Dalmatians are quite big, aren't they?
Yes, they are. You should really have a garden.
Well, we've got one.
And you have to take them out for a walk twice a day. Well, you don't have to go twice, but you must go at least once, every day. Rain, snow, sun, every day. And you mustn't forget to take 2 or 3 small plastic bags when you go out.
Plastic bags?
Well, when your dog, you shouldn't leave it on the street. You should always clean it up and put it in the bin.
And a smaller dog? Should I get one of these?
They're Yorkshire Terriers. They're very small.
And noisy. Get something a bit quiet, Ollie. Think of your neighbours. How about that one?
As an adult, Old English sheepdogs are extremely large. Like that one. And you've got to look after their hair regularly. You should brush them as often as possible and get their hair cut.
What about a cat? We used to have a cat. She was a bit unfriendly. She used to scratch the sofa and our legs, and she stole food if you left it for a moment. You've got to be careful with a cat. Some are nice, but some are, well, a turtle? They're small and quiet, and they don't have hair.
They grow, and then you have to buy a bigger tank. You'd better buy a thermostat and a filter if you want a turtle. And you mustn't forget to change the water. They don't smell great.
What about a hamster?
I don't know what I should do. I mean, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable.
I don't mind. And if you like him, why not? He has to decide if he wants to go out with the mother of a student, though. But he seems nice. Maybe you should go for a coffee or lunch and see how you feel. If you don't like him, you don't have to see him again.
I shouldn't be asking you about this sort of thing. Oh, but I feel like a teenager. Why do these things have to be so complicated?
It's not complicated, Mum. You mustn't forget, he's the one who suggested going for a drink. So he obviously likes you, and you obviously like him. What's complicated?
I'm in New Zealand. I'm about to go and fly over volcanoes. It's not easy to combine my kind of life with, well, a romance.
You'll be home next week, and maybe you should take some time off traveling. Spend some time with us, and with him. And I'll be leaving school in a year, so go on, Mum. Life's too short. You should phone him.
Well, I'll think about it. I'd better go. I mustn't miss the helicopter. Is Oliver there?
No, he's out buying that pet. Oh, no, here he is. Ollie, it's Mum.
Hi, Mum.
Did you get anything?
Yes, I did. And his name's Hannibal.
So this is the video for today. And Carlos, what do you understand about this video?
The man wanted about buy a pet, but she didn't know what pet to buy. For example, she checked the Dalmatas, but these dogs are bigger than the other. For example, the small dog. It's if she want to buy the Dalmatax dog, she must get out then to a street and take baths to how do you say excremento? I don't know.
It's like poop.
Yes. So she decided to buy another pet for example, the most appropriate for her is the fish.
Yes, yes, it's easy to care about a fish. What about you, Tito? What do you understand about this video?
The video is about people talks the care of animals. One girl study veterinary, and she has to practice about this knowledge, and she go to the shop, and she talk about with uh, with men about this pet, and he choose a dog, a cat, turtle, a fish, and she's playing uh, take care, and we have to care, and he choose fish is very he's very comfortable with the pet.
Yes, it's true. Sometimes the pets, like dogs or cats, needs a lot of cares, and of course, we don't have too much time to care about it. So he prefers the fish. So here, must and have to are both used for obligation and are often quite similar. They are both followed by the infinitive. I must go now. I have to go now. So we don't have to add, for example, I must go to. No. It's just must go or I have to go. So, are these exactly the same? Well, almost. We often use must for more personal opinions about what it is necessary to do, and have to for what somebody in authority has said it is necessary to do. I must remember to get a present for Daisy. It's my opinion. I must. You have to look after their hair regularly. Dog experts say so. I have to. Do, do you have to wear a tie for school? Asking about school rules. So, which verb do people use more? Have to is more frequently in conversations. Must is used more in formal writing, for example, in writing notice. Passengers must fasten their seat belts. Do they change in form I usually, etc.? Have changes in the third person singular. He, she, it has. But must doesn't change. It's never I think I've heard have got to. So we don't use both have got to for obligation and have got to. But we don't have to check this one. For example, there's something very important about must and have to. The positive form are very similar in the meaning, but the negative form are completely different. You mustn't forget. Don't forget. You don't have choice. If you don't like him, you don't have to see him again. There is not an obligation to see him again, but you have a choice. Here's an example you can remember. In a non-smoking area, you mustn't smoke, but in a smoking area, you don't have to smoke. But if you want, you can do it. Okay? Mm, must. Okay, let's look at advice telling people what you think is a good idea. We use should for advice or making suggestions and must for strong advices. You must go for a walk with the dog at least one a day. Maybe you should go for a coffee or lunch. This should is just for advice. It's like debería. Okay? Okay. So I think this is the lesson for today. Do you have any questions until this point? Hello, Laura. How are you?
I don't have any question, teacher.
Okay. Tito? Do you have any questions, Tito?
No, teacher, I don't have questions.
So Laura is gone. Laura, hello. Anyway, I will send you the link to check the session for today, Laura, and you can check the topic. But this topic is really simple, it's easy to understand because it's easy when you have the correct phrase for it. For example, if you understand, mustn't is prohibit, is not allowed, and don't have to is not an obligation. And but if you want, you can do whatever the phrase mentioned. So it's easy to understand this topic. So thank you so much. This is the topic for today, and see you, I think, in our last session. Is going to be in May 9. And thank you so much, and see you in the next time. I hope you can make the video or the audio. If you want, you can send it by WhatsApp about these lessons. How do you think about my process as a teacher? And also, if you want to explain yourself in the video or audio, you can send it also by WhatsApp. It's okay for me. Okay, so see you in the next time, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, teacher.
Okay.
Good day for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you, teacher.
Bye bye.